Welcome back to another episode of After the License. We have another interview for you today. I'm excited to be joined by David Justice. Welcome, man. How's it going?
Good. How you doing? I appreciate you having me on the show today. It's been a long time. We haven't talked in a while, so I'm excited.
Oh, I'm excited too, man. So let's just start off. You want to tell people kind of what part of the country you're in, where you're from, and really how you got into real estate. I know you kind of have a little bit of a unique story.
Yeah. I'm a 24-year-old from Wilmington, Delaware. Most people probably have either never heard of Delaware or just drove through it. But it's the second smallest state. Now I currently reside in Maple Shade, New Jersey, which is about give or take 30 minutes away from there. But yeah, I'm in New Jersey. I'm a licensed realtor. I've been in the business for a year and a half, year and 7 months. So I still am very new, but I've got a year in, so I like where things are going.
I love it. You and I connected a while back, and we were talking YouTube and lead generation. I think the one thing I picked up from you, David, that I just love, and I think it's something that a lot of new agents struggle with, is just your willingness to kind of attack things, right? Like you put your mind to something and you go after it, right? And I think that's kind of part of the reason why you've had so much success in this early year. Do you want to talk a little bit about just kind of some of the numbers that I know we're rounding out the end of the year here? Like, what does this year look like for you in terms of closings and listings and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, my goal, I kind of fell a little short of it, but and it was kind of aggressive. But this year was my first full calendar year, so we won't get into like year or whatever. My first year, I joined June of 2020. So that first 4 or 5 months, I just did rentals. I didn't do too much. This will be 2021 is my first full calendar year. It will end at like 2.9 million. About depending on how you look at it, I counted as 16 transactions. I did two deals on both sides, so it was 18 units. So you can count it however you want. But I look at it as 16 deals, 2.9 million. So my goal was 24 million. So I felt kind of short a little bit in my eyes, but I think it was pretty good for my first calendar year.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. And we've talked about it on this podcast before. There's a lot of agents who have two transactions their first year, or and some people really struggle with it. So I think just getting up there in that 18 transaction or 18 units is fantastic for your first kind of calendar year. So that's great. But before we get too much kind of into your current business, do you want to tell the story of how, like, I'd love to know why you jumped into real estate specifically, and kind of maybe what your past what you've done in your past.
Yeah, so I did a year of college, fresh out of high school. I don't want to say it wasn't my thing, but I just wrong timing, wrong attitude, was a partier, did sports. So I don't really think I had that focus, and I knew I needed a reset. So I did the military after my first year of college for one term. Did that for a few years, and when I got out, I realized that there's a misconception that everybody wants to hire a veteran. It's not that they don't, but you still need to know how to do a job, and sometimes shooting guns doesn't always transition to something else. So I went into car sales. My dad did it. I knew a bunch of people that got into business, so that's what I did. I worked at Mercedes-Benz of Alaska for about 2 years, and then I moved back to the East Coast to Jersey, and I worked at Subaru of Cherry Hill. So I was in car business for about 3 years after the military, and I fell in love with sales. In high school, I did a lot of retail, so I was always good with sales-related things, and I've always been good with people. But I just felt like there was a little bit more than car sales. There's nothing wrong with the job, but just for me, I wanted to help people with a bigger purchase. I wanted to help guide people where they needed a little bit more info. Car sales, you can kind of look on the internet. You can kind of find a lot of different things. Nowadays, there's like Carvana, and you can kind of do it without a salesperson. So I really wanted to find something where somebody could really use a personable person to give them an insider to the industry and actually help them, and not just be showing them houses and they have to do everything themselves. So that's what I did. I took a jump. I was debating about it for a while. I kind of threw it out for a couple of years. My wife said, "Hey, you should do it. You'll be good at it." And COVID hit us. So I pretty much wanted to leave my job at the time. COVID hit. And I said, screw it. I'm going to just, jump for it. Took a 2-week course, and now I'm a realtor. So it
I love
was
it, man.
a scary time to jump during COVID. I should say I shouldn't lie. My wife got a promotion during that time, so it was actually a perfect timing to. Then she ended up getting pregnant, so she had to stop. So it then became scary. But at the time when I quit, it wasn't. It just seemed like a no-brainer time.
Yeah. So that those first couple months that you jumped in. So did you start? You must have started June 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, so all the government agencies were shut down. So I went through school fairly quickly. But my state test kept getting kicked back. It happened like 3 or 4 times. So I had to just keep studying and, just keep the information in my head for about 2, 3 months. And then I was told I can wait till July or I could drive an hour out to take my test in PA. So that's what I did. I just drove out to take the test and I got licensed like June 25th.
That's great. That's great. So you mentioned kind of in the beginning, you started off with some rentals. Like those first 6 months, like is there any like how were you feeling? Was it difficult? Like what was kind of going through your head and what do you feel like some other people might be struggling with when they're just starting out? Like are there lessons you learned in that first 6 month period that you can share with us?
My main lesson, I feel like I can do, I won't say anything, but when I set my mind to something, I'm all in. Like, that's just the type of person I am. I would drop any type of money. I would start doing it right now. I will walk in the cold. I will call anybody. Like, that's just how I am. But I have to be all in. And I was all in. I mean, I quit my job. So, a lot of people, if you have the mindset like me, or if you don't, you have the attitude of HGTV, million dollar listings. It seems kind of easy. And I just figured, hey, people like me. I can sell stuff. I will sell really fast. And don't want to tell anybody not to be excited and pumped, but that's only a few people. Those people that you see on YouTube and stuff that just kill it their first year, right out the gate. I'm not saying it can't happen, but that's not everybody. And that was my fault. Was I kind of had an ignorant attitude going into it. So I got my license on Thursday. I was showing a house on Saturday. I moved really fast, but that deal fell apart. Couple was going through a divorce, and I was stuck. And for like 2, 3 months, I just from July to like September, I just was stuck. I couldn't generate anything, any leads. Nothing was really going, and it was kind of like I don't know, it just kind of messed with your pride a little bit. So I think that's the main thing is people should have an honest attitude and you should still be motivated, but whether that's you're doing a part-time job, whether that means you just have to make sure you stay consistent and keep your head up every day, you need to find some motivation. Because for me, I feel like I got stuck not because anything wasn't working. I gave up a little too early after that 2 month period, and I was just kind of like sitting there waiting for something to happen. But my first 6 months was really frustrating. I mean, I got things going around September, October, and you realize in this business that anything you do now, it takes months before you see results from that. Every once in a while, you get referrals and somebody is ready to do now, but most of the time, the work you do now, you don't see results for months later. So even though I was getting some traffic in September or October, it really wasn't for stuff for until the end of the year. And that's what happened was I started getting momentum. Then I got a couple rentals going. And then all of a sudden January started, I sold a house. And then February. And then ever since, December of that year, I have not sold a house every month. So my two main words of advice for anybody new is that first 6 months, just stay motivated, stay consistent. When leads fall through, when deals fall through, when you don't have anything, just always remember, if I don't do anything today, 6 months from now, I'm not going to have anything.
I love that advice because I think that piece right there is what most agents struggle with. And I see it all day long from agents I talk to or agents in some of these Facebook groups or whatever it looks like. And there's just such a misconception on what real estate is, whether it's HGTV or selling sunset, or even if I think just like following realtors on Instagram, because as agents, we're not showing all the hard work. We're not showing all the lead gen. We're not always showing the door knocking or the cold calling that it just looks like this very glamorous and easy thing when in reality it's like you're in the business of marketing, you're in the business of lead gen, and you have to find ways to do that every single day. And to your point, the things you do now are only going to help your business 30, 60, 90, sometimes 6 months from now, right? 90 days or 6 months from now. So you have to stay motivated and work through that initial period. And if you don't and you end up letting your foot off the gas, that's when things can get really, really rocky, right? So I think you have a great perspective there, because it's something I think a lot of agents struggle with. So, so the 18 transactions the 18 sides or units you've done this year, you want to talk through like, what has been the biggest lead generator for you? Well, what's been the best thing for your business in terms of generating leads and picking up new clients?
Yeah, so I mean, my main thing for my first, I would say, first 3, 4 months, around September, October of um, last year, that I really set my mind to was, okay, I'm going to reset and try what I thought was everything. I find new sources every month, but what I thought was 7, 8 different types of lead gen, and I'm just going to try them all. And after 90 days, whatever I felt like worked for me is what I was going to put my sole purpose on. And that's how I got my first 3 or 4 deals. Was I just cut back and did 2 or 3 things. And even though I didn't have 30 leads a month coming in, I did have really good leads coming in. So the main things I did for new agents, I always tell people, when you get kind of seasoned, you might have other agents do it for you. But open houses, as much as it's taking your weekend up, they really do have, the big thing in this business is conversations. And open houses allow you to have conversations with people that are actively looking to buy a house, whether they have an agent already, whether they're just a nosy neighbor, whether they're not trying to buy in a year. You're still having conversations. And I've had it where I did so many open houses, I had 2 clients see me 3 times, and after a while, one of them gave me a chance. That's, you don't have to be that extreme, but that's how people started recognizing me, and they just assume I knew something because I was just at every open house in Cherry Hill. If anybody in my office wanted an open house done for them, I was the one. I responded in 5 minutes, and that did generate, I think, my second deal. My second deal for the year. They wanted a house. I helped them put an offer in. They didn't. That was my first house, actually. They put an offer in on a listing I was doing an open house for. They didn't get it. They asked for me to help them find something else. Took 2 months. We did. I had another deal from open house. They pretty much didn't save for closing costs. I explained that you just don't need down payment, and I gave them just a little bit of information. We called off the sale for 2, 3 months. I was kind of, I need money. I was frustrated. 3 months came back. They came back to me. We sold them a house. So open houses, they are, I don't want to say a grind. I mean, it's just one day a week, but it is your weekend, and a lot of people get in this business to control their time. But open houses for new agents when you don't have any leads whatsoever are a great way if you do maybe 2 or 4 months. Then also a sphere of influence, I didn't have that. I know a lot of people, but they're in Delaware, they're in Pennsylvania, they're in Alaska, they're everywhere but where I was licensed at. So it was irrelevant to me. So everybody told me to do that, and I did it, but it was like 20 people. It wasn't enough. So what I did, I got a lot of referrals though. So what I would have is I was just on social media all the time, and what I learned for social media is I'm not really that good of a content creator. Content can be whatever you want to make, but I don't make the pretty content. I can't make the really good. But what I realized, a lot of people I knew like seeing me do what I did every day. So what I do now is I will literally not edit it or anything, record me at an open house, or I will record me typing up a contract, or record me. I will do a post, did 5 showings a day. Here's a closing, and people loved it. And what happened was, even though they weren't in my state, they will refer me people they know that were in that state. So that would be my second lead source, is either referrals from other agents or referrals from people I knew. Facebook has been a great lead source for me. I've probably had 2 deals from Facebook this year. I closed a deal for Twitter this year on vacation. I was in Alaska, and somebody commented on a tweet that was nothing real estate related. I was talking about a basketball game or something. They realized they liked the tweet, went on my profile, followed me, saw at the top that was a New Jersey realtor. They just so happened to be buying a house and closed the deal. So I would say,
well, that's funny.
Social media, open houses, and then when I say referrals, agent referrals, what I'm saying is I was in my office and I was communicating with local agents, even if I didn't know them, through email, through social media. A lot of agents, they're so competitive, they don't want to talk to other agents in their region. I did. And people saw me so much that if they couldn't do something, if a deal was too small for them, if they were on vacation, they will refer it to me. They'll just like, throw me 25% and will do it. And I've closed 2 or 3 deals from that too as well.
I love that, David. So, like, I think that is a great example of like where you're going above and beyond, and you're just like, hey, I'm going to have conversations with agents because I know that they have clients, and if they don't want to work them, I'll work them, right? So, what did those conversations look like? You would email them and just reach out and say, hey, I'm David, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so if usually whether you whatever brokerage you're with, you'll probably have a company email, and it's pretty. Even if they don't have a mass send out email, there's probably a way that you can find the emails for other agents. And what I would for my company, we had there's different offices, and I would just tag those offices, and it would email all the agents in there. So I would email Cherry Hill office, Marlton office, Hattiesville office, and it would total up to like 400 agents or something. And I would literally say like, hey, does anybody? I'm a new agent. I'm available Saturday and Sunday. Does anybody need an open house to be hosted for them? Or does anybody need somebody to shadow? Does anybody? I've done showings for people where they broke their back or something, and they would pay me $20 to do a showing for their client. Like that, I've done stuff like that. But usually email. If you are with a brokerage that has an office, do floor time, do the trainings that they have there, go to the fundraisers and the Thanksgiving potluck. My face is shown. You know, not every agent in your office is going to be an active agent. They might just sell one house a year. There's probably only like good 30 to 50 agents that go to that office all the time. And I just made sure, even though I was new, I was one of them. So people recognized me all the time. And they knew I was new, and they said I was hungry. And I've had it where seasoned agents, they said, I don't deal with rentals anymore. So to them, it was only a couple $100, but to me, that's how I got my first rentals, where they just do them to me. And the funny thing is, I just sold that rental a year later. I just closed on 2 of their condos. They decided to sell them. So I just never figured anything was too small for me, and I just communicate with other agents. And you'd be surprised, you'll get a lot of agents that will tell you stuff.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. And again, I just love I you're clearly hungry, and it's funny other people mention that, right? And it's like
Mm.
you just have this attitude of like, hey, I'm willing to put in the work and I'll do whatever it takes. And again, I think so many agents struggle with that, and I think that's been a real key to your success. You mentioned before kind of open houses. Did you have any special like open house strategy or times, or what did that look like? It was just kind of if an agent had a listing that needed to be held open, you just kind of volunteered? Did you put a certain number of signs out, or have a specific type of conversation with those folks, or what did that look like for you?
So I used to think I had tricks. To be honest, I think I could do more. My open houses are pretty simple. I would give simple tips would be, put the sign-in sheet and position yourself somewhere that everybody has to go through. Because people will come through there and they know you're sitting there and they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to sign in. That's fine. You don't have to press them, but you want to be somewhere, usually like the kitchen, or like there's a big house, the main hallway, somewhere where everybody has to come see you. The backyard. Um, you don't want to harass people. You don't want to be like, a crazy person, trying to talk to everybody. But at the same time, you don't want to like be in the corner, because the whole point is to generate conversation. So I generally set up in the kitchen. I feel like everybody's going to go in the kitchen. Um, what you should do, a lot of times if I'm running late, I've been there 15, 20 minutes before, which would be normal in a normal market. But during this COVID time, there've been a lot of, you probably seen like crazy like lines outside open houses. So you probably should actually go like 30, 40 minutes before, because I've seen people come through a little bit early that they didn't want to be there at that open house, and they would say like, here's my card, can you call me later? But my main tip for new agents wouldn't be necessarily what you do at the open house, is what open houses you take. In the beginning, you'll be happy to just take 1 or 2, but if you're going to do it for a long-term strategy for lead gen, because I would still do it. A lot of people stop doing it after a certain point. It's a still good source if you're willing to sacrifice that 2-3 hours of your weekend. Be very specific on which open houses you take, because what I did in the beginning, I was taking them all over the place, and I realized I started having more success when I started picking just certain areas. Like instead of going Cherry Hill, Pine Hill, Williamboro, all over the county, I just started doing like specific neighborhoods, and any open house that somebody said in that neighborhood, I would do it. And what I realized is people started recognizing me there. I started learning Cherry Hill, which is my major market, better. So now I really don't take open houses unless it's 2 or 3 cities. So just try to be very specific. open houses, maybe an address that you know is going to sell really well, that they're probably going to have like 30, 40 people come by instead of like that investor property that probably not everybody's going to go to. So don't be afraid to ask for open houses in the beginning, maybe to take what you can get. But if you're going to do it for a long term, I would just be very specific with open houses you do.
I think that's fantastic advice. And it's interesting that I like that perspective where you kind of figured out, okay, so you're going to be the Cherry Hill expert. And so
Mm.
it sounds like you had a couple clients who will see you at a couple of the same open or different open houses in the same area, but you also just kind of become that expert, right? You've held several open houses in that area, you've sold things in that area, and you can kind of sound more knowledgeable because you're like, oh, hey, I sold something down the road, and this is the price per square foot typically with this type of unit in this area, and I like that. So you kind of became the neighborhood expert and are working on that piece of it, and it's probably a little bit easier too, just to kind of have your focus in one area versus
Mm.
going all over the place. That's great advice. Um, any tips or tricks? Like, is there a specific way you structure your day? Like, and is this something you struggled with when you first started out? Because I know it's something that a lot of new agents struggle with. Is like, what does their day look like? They're all in on real estate. They're a full time agent now, and now they're trying to figure out like, what do I do when I wake up? What do I do in the afternoons? Like, is there a specific way you've kind of structured your day now that you've been doing this for 18 months?
Yeah. So in the beginning, you realize that in the first month or two, your company might have you do certain trainings, but at a certain point, there's nobody telling you what to do. And a lot of things become optional. Training becomes optional besides what you need to keep your license. You don't have any clients unless you find them. So, I mean, your day can be wide open. And next thing you know, months goes by because you just wanted to call three people and, be comfortable. A lot of the time is what I would say bull crap. So you have to make work for yourself. So, um, what I learned was in the beginning, I was doing a lot of the bullcrap work. Training is important. Um, Watching like Ryan Serhant stuff for motivation is cool, and doing home tours. I used to go check the vacant houses just to study and all that. All that's great. You want to perfect your craft, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if you don't get any business. So now what I try to do is I try to, even if it's only an hour, you need to set a certain amount of time, and I don't care what the lead source is. You need to be trying to generate leads every day. I don't care if you pay for leads. I don't care if you do open houses, if you pass out 1,000 letters, if you cold call, whatever. You should dedicate at least an hour to whatever you can do that day, and even if it's only 30 minutes, but you do that every day. That's, I feel like, not the only thing in this business, but that's like the main thing. You can't do your job if you don't have leads. So that's what I try to do, and I'm not as strict as some other agents because my schedule changes. I don't have an assistant. I'm not a huge producer yet, so I don't do it where it's every 9 o'clock every day. I just know the day before I put it on my calendar that this time period is going to be for lead source, and I do leads generating on Saturday and Sunday, 7 days a week. Whether it's just texting 10 people and just say hey, I saw this expired house, or if it's doing an Instagram post, just some type of lead generation every day has to happen. Like, that is non-negotiable. Then I usually typically have, I set about an hour or two of time for showings. But my day, again, is kind of sporadic. The way I create consistency is the day before I have my calendar reminder app, and everything that I do goes in my calendar. I'm not booked weeks out in advance, but I know what I'm going to do for the next 2 or 3 days, and that allows me to now have personal time. If somebody randomly calls me asking to see something today, I'm not too good for it. I'll still do it, but I need to know where my time is for a day. So I advise anybody, even if you're a new agent, you don't have anything to do, if you have any appointments, any trainings, put in your calendar so that every morning you can wake up and see what you have to do.
It's kind of prioritizing the things that are most important. And
Absolutely.
prioritizing lead gen, prioritizing getting new clients. And I did an interview with a gentleman named Sean Getty. It's actually not published yet, but he was kind of talking about it. He's like, if you're not lead genning, you're not actually doing the work, right? It's like you can do this other stuff, and we get so caught up in it, and I do too, where it's like, oh, I want to design a new business card or this website or create this new campaign, and it's all of it seems good and it's all kind of important for your business, like you said, but the actual most important thing is just having more conversations with people, whether that's through Instagram and DMs or text conversations or leads you generate online or open houses. It's just having more conversations with people, because that's ultimately what kind of compounds and grows your business. So I think that's fantastic advice. And just doing, like we said too, is figuring out what your schedule is going to look like. And if you don't want to time block it out every single day, but you just want to know, okay, the night before I'm going to plan tomorrow and the day after, I think that's great. Just having some consistency with that is
that's what I mean. So, with the calendar thing, that a lot of times there's big gaps. I'll be like, I have a 9 o'clock, a 4 o'clock, and a 2 o'clock or something. There's a lot of gaps in there. But then I also use the reminder app the day before. And anytime I'm like, I don't know, I gotta submit this all for a day. I got 3 showings a day, anything like that. Maybe there's not like a specific time I have to do it, but I know I do this reminder app, so I know the things that I have to get done in between those times. So I'm a big note taker. I have this notebook. I go through probably like a notebook every 2 weeks. It's like random stuff, but I'm always writing down, because people forget. You're moving this business. You could be sitting home watch TV. Next thing you know, you show 6 houses. I've written up 5 offers in the same day. Like your time just goes anywhere. So I always just notes anywhere. I have to put them down, whether it's on paper, your phone, your iPad, on your hand. Just continually remind yourself what you have to
do. That reminder app, are you just using like the iPhone reminder app, or is there something specific you're using besides that? Okay.
Just reminder app. I just like on here. It's like a white background. I'm trying to see, and I just put everything right there. Once I'm done for it, it just you just type it up. It just goes down the list, create a new list, and this doesn't alert you, but I'm just looking at it every time I turn my phone. I'm just looking at it, and every time I check it off. When everything is done, I'm done for the day.
It's kind of like your running to-do list that you use.
Yep.
That's perfect. That's great, man. Dude, well, it was fantastic talking to you. The one thing I want to touch on is this book here that you wrote, which I think is super impressive. I don't know how you did this and in between everything else. You want to talk a little bit about kind of the motivation for the book and what it's about and where people can purchase a copy if they're interested?
Yeah, so I'm a big I guess the word is accolades or resume person. Writing a book was always on my to-do list for myself. I didn't care if 5 people read it or 2 million. I just was like, I'm gonna put down what I believe, what I've learned on a thing, and if anybody ever asks me, this is where it is. And I just had a lot of people keep asking me what was working for me. So I didn't really know, and I kind of looked into it during when COVID first hit, and I just said, I'm write a short book. It's not going to be super long, and it's going to be in simple text, and it's just going to be easy for people to read to understand what has worked for me. And that's kind of where I came up with it. I realized that I don't think I do anything special. I'm not that smart. I don't have a college degree. I'm not from the smallest town or the biggest town. I just realized that everybody gets opportunities. You might get 2, I might get 10, but we all get at least 1 or 2 chances. And the difference between me and you might be that I just decide to say yes or no faster. And that the whole point of the book was not only learning to make decisions faster, but learning how to make the right ones. I'm not a believer in just making stupid decisions, but it goes into, knowing yourself, and that allows you to make decisions quicker. So I know if an opportunity is good for me or not very, very, very fast. And that was what the book is about, is helping other people to take advantage of opportunities that come their way.
That's great, man. Where can the listeners pick up a copy if they're interested? And for those who are listening on the podcast, it's called Learning to Say F It by David Justice.
Yeah, so it's on my blog, theyoungmerchant.com. And the blog is all about entrepreneurship and business. So it goes over different things from different tax write-offs, different side hustles if you're looking for a side hustle job, different things with the economy, real estate stuff, anything involving entrepreneurship and business. The blog is on there. And then if you just go to the shop, the book will be there for purchase.
That's fantastic. And for anyone watching on YouTube, we'll put the link to that book in the YouTube description. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can go find the YouTube video and you can find the link in there too, or you can just visit The Young Merchant. So awesome, David. We'll have to have you back on again in the future, because I think you just have so much insight. And I think your headspace is perfect for a new agent who's obviously built a career for yourself and is going to continue to have success. So I appreciate you kind of sharing some of that wisdom today with us. And and we'll continue to follow your journey, man. So thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Go follow David Justice. We'll put all the social media links in the description as well. So thanks, man. Talk to you later.